Hello, my name is Christoph Malchuk and welcome to my game showcase video. This is a showcase of my college project game which is titled Dice Man. This is a relatively short game but it shows off a few mechanics that I was required to do. The theme of this game is Roll of the Dice, which is also the same theme that was used in the GMTK Game Jam 2022. Now that the introduction is finished, I will get started playing the game. So the very first level acts as a tutorial for the game. It shows the player which buttons to press. There's like the space bar which indicates jump, which the player can figure out. There's also a UI in the top left, which indicates the dice that are loaded in the inventory. There is a UI on top right, which indicates the health bar of the player. And if you look at the top left, if you throw a dice, it loads it throws the leftmost dice, and all the dice on the right shift to the left. So that happens. These dice cannot be spammed because there's a cooldown, as you've seen earlier. There's a little animation. So I'm spamming the button and it's not going through. There's also a bit of coyote time. So if I run off the platform, I can still jump off it. This cooldown lasts for 0.25 of a second, so a quarter of a second, and then the cooldown is over. So that's the little window of time the player has to keep jumping. There's some hazards down there in this pit. There's cigarettes, so if you jump into them, the player will die, and this UI will show up. So you can exit to main menu like this, and it brings us back here. We can also use that to restart the level if I jump in there. You can also activate the pause menu by pressing the escape key. The exit button works exactly the same as in the death menu, so I won't go over that. Here's the thing that says how to attack. You can press either the F key or the mouse key. So if you do that, basically the dice get thrown. Here we can see an enemy. There's also a poker chip. If he attacks you, he will bite you. Takes away 2 health. And if he kills you, you'll start cheering. You can't see that now because the UI is covering it, but that's the general idea. He starts cheering when he kills you. You can also kill the enemy by throwing dice at him. Basically the value of the dice is the amount of damage it will do. So here the UI is telling us to climb, so we can press the W key or the S key. Well, the W and S key are up and down. Here is whiskey. The whiskey is a hazard that's in the game. If you fall into that, it will kill you just like the cigarettes do. You can throw dice into it and the dice will actually float, as you can see, because the whiskey is more buoyant. Or the dice are more buoyant than that. If the player falls here, he will slowly sink to the bottom. The UI is also covering that, so you can't really see it, but that's what's happening in the background. Here's some platforming that you have to do just to get the player used to it. And this is the exit. So as soon as you walk into this, the next level will start loading and the screen will fade out. So now we're in the next level. This one is a pretty simple one, but there's no way to die in this level. There's just a couple of ladders that the player can jump on to introduce them to like ladder platforming. And the next level has it relies on this pretty heavily. So that's why I need to introduce this tutorial stage for ladder jumping, because the next level has a much harder version of it. There's the exact same exit here that we've seen earlier. So here we have some ladder jumping over whiskey, which is a step up from the last level, because now the player has to actually be careful. If he falls, there is no going back. He has to restart the full level, which is not that big of an issue, but you have to climb up the first ladder again. So yeah. Here's some classic platforming that the player has to do. And here we can see an enemy who's already aggroed. The enemies will be aggroed on you if you throw a dice at them or get into their range. So once that happens, they will just start attacking you. So I just took a bit of damage there because I landed on him. This corridor is tight on purpose, so it's much more difficult to just jump past all the enemies. You have to fight them. You can see the targeting system locks onto the closest enemy, and that's the direction the dice will go. That's why I have to run back and forward, because if I don't, then the dice won't load in time for me to throw them and the enemies will just kill me. I have to run away. I could just ignore this next enemy because there's no reason for me to attack him. And here's just some final platforming just to finish it off. Once we get here, this is the final exit, this is the final level. That brings us to the end game screen. This screen just acts as a redirect to the main menu, so you can restart the game, and you can see a nice little animation for the screen loading again. And that's it. Thanks for watching.